Welcome to Nashville, Tennessee, the unofficial capital of country music. For years, aspiring young hopefuls have come here hoping to catch a break and get discovered. This weekend, the stages moved some 20 minutes east of the Music City to Nashville Superspeedway. But the goals are still the same. Beat the veterans, and just like last year, maybe one of these fresh young faces can break through to victory lane here in big-time stock car racing. Could be an opportunity for a young driver to break through.
Brad Keselowski been running with these guys toe-to-toe week in and week out.
Here comes Keselowski, but he's got one tough guy to pass in a veteran Clint Boyer.
Here he goes.
Here he goes on the inside. Keselowski trying to get it done.
He's calling me gone right now. Oh, yeah. I bet his heart rate just went up.
First-time winner, Brad Keselowski.
I don't think he's coming in until he runs out of gas.
What does this feel like?
It's awesome. This is it. This is what I've been dreaming of my whole life.
1 week ago on the concrete again in Dover, Delaware, in the right position. Restart, 2 laps to go. Kyle Busch cuts a tire, gets a little bump from behind by Joey Logano, but it is Brad Keselowski who slides by to take the lead and would come down to pick up his 3rd career win. Yeah, the concrete kid. Keselowski winning for the 3rd time, all 3 coming on concrete ovals. So you got to believe he loves coming back to Nashville, Tennessee, where it all began for him 1 year ago in Lebanon, Tennessee. Brad Keselowski was already won in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Talladega, now a winner here in NASCAR nationwide. Jason Leffler, one of 4 former winners in the race here this weekend. How about the impressive rookie class? Justin Allgaier struggled here back in April with a very good race car, and also co-leader of the Rebecca's Rookie of the Year point standings, Brendan Gaughan, in a very potent Chevy. Brad Coleman back from a 10-month hiatus. He'll be in the 20 car that won the race here back in the spring with Joey Logano. And yes, Kyle Busch has made it from Pocono, the points leader, because of the rains, able to come in early, as did the guy who's chasing him, Concrete Carl, a 3-time winner here at Nashville Superspeedway. Well, let's go down to the Brad Keselowski pits for an update. Here's Shannon Spade.
Well, Doc, right now, Brad Keselowski is 4th on the speed chart. He's just pulled his number 88 car into the garage. I talked to Brad before he climbed in the car. He spent the morning re-watching last week's win back at Dover. He did tell me he wasn't able to see the very end of it because actually his TiVo shut off. But you can see these guys working on the car right now. They were one of the first cars out onto the racetrack. They went out, they scuffed some tires that they will use in qualifying tomorrow. Right now, Brad's saying that the car is just a little bit free. Now, he is a former winner here at this racetrack, but according to his crew chief, they've brought a different setup here today, something that they really hope will improve their chances going to victory lane. Again, 3 wins on concrete. I think it's pretty good, Doc.
Absolutely. Shannon loves coming back here. He's averaged a 6th place finish the last 9 times out, and as a result of that, he's moved all the way to 5th spot in the point standings. There's Kyle Busch, who lost 33 points from the disappointment at Dover a week ago. Carl Everett 2nd. Take a look, 2 rookies in the top 10. Brendan Gaughan is 7th, and Justin Allgaier down in 10th place. Now, Kyle Busch is our points leader. We talked about the disappointment of a week ago. What's going on with the 18 team? We've got our own guy embedded down there, Andy Petrie down there. They've got a backup driver, Andy. What's the agenda now for the day?
Yeah, Doc, what we were going to do, we were going to follow this 18 team while they set this car up for Kyle with another driver, Jeremy Clement. With the rain out of Pocono with qualifying, Kyle was able to get down here. They're back to their normal routine. And what Jason Radcliffe told me, they just want to use this first practice to try to scuff a few tires, let the track rubber in. Now, that's an important thing here at a concrete racetrack because the tire wear is so high initially when you go on the track when it's green that these guys are going to go out there, scuff a few tires, and save that one set that they have to practice on for that happy hour session so they can really work on their race setup.
So, Andy, the rain in Pocono, a blessing for Kyle Busch and Carl Everett, able to get here to Nashville and get working on their race cars. Well, we welcome you inside our Craftsman Tech Garage. There we are, just behind Pit Road, along with Rusty Wallace. I'm Jerry Punch. Glad to have you with us. This is what we call the House of Brewer. Tim Brewer, our crew chief, will be along momentarily to show you some of the parts and pieces that help these cars go quick on the concrete. Now, Rusty, they call this part of the year the Opportunity Weeks because it's an opportunity for young drivers to get to victory lane. The Cup guys are off running back and forth between Cup racetracks, but this racetrack, 7 first-time winners. Why this track? Why is it so good for young drivers to come here and win?
Jerry, that's a good question. I think the reason is because this track is pretty straightforward. Nothing crazy about it. You know, you got a track like Charlotte's got a big bump getting into turn one. This track doesn't have it. It's got real good transitions. It's real wide. If a rookie makes a mistake, 9 times out of 10, he can get himself out of it. So I think it really caters to a rookie, and that's one of the reasons they get these first wins here.
There's a veteran looking for an opportunity as well this weekend. We're talking about the guy third in points, Jason Leffler. Now, he was hoping to be able to move a little closer with the guys he's chasing, being able to go back and forth between Cup and Nationwide tracks.
Well, he's doing a pretty good job right now. As practice is going on, he's second quick right now in the racetrack. But you know, he's been real consistent for a long time. That Braun Racing team has been rock solid. And I think with the momentum they've got right now, Jason can probably get himself back in victory lane. And I wouldn't doubt it'd be right here.
He has recorded 7 consecutive top 10 finishes. This is a good place for Jason Leffler. Why? Because his very first NASCAR Nationwide Series victory came here back in 2004. Kyle Busch had issues in the final laps, and under caution, barely on fumes, Leffler was able to coast around and go to victory lane. So he remembers getting that very first win here in Nashville. Well, let's go down and talk with Jason, who's standing by with Dave Burns.
And Doc, am I allowed to say those were just great clips of Jason Leffler's win here at Nashville? I'll say it anyway. Great clips of your win here a few years ago. But you know, you can't stand on that success or anything else this year, obviously, because your crew chief has thrown a whole new setup at this race car. Jason, how was it on that first run?
It's really good. We're gonna take our time here and let the track rubber up. But the Great Clips Camrys was good off the trailer, a lot better than we were the last time here. So pretty happy with it. We'll see where it goes. You know, the track's gonna change here with the rubber. It was green when we first went out. Obviously, we're gonna race at night, so that'll change a little bit. But we're just taking our time here, and then we'll get after it here in a little bit.
And we were talking about this a little bit. You really have to manage your tires here in order to get an accurate reading on your race car too, don't you?
Yeah, for sure. If you go out too early here, it's so green that you'll cord your tire, especially your right rear. So we just wanted to make some laps there, shake the car down basically. Make sure what we got is fairly close, and Scott and the guys are doing a great job as usual. So hopefully we can qualify good and start up front and get us another guitar.
All right, new setup for these guys. It's working well so far. Our in-race reporter, maybe have something for him here this weekend at Nashville. Doc?
Look forward to riding along with Jason and talking to him along with the other crew there. What a job they have done. And a lot of people in that garage area believe if this team can just continue top 10 finishes, they will be a major factor down the stretch when both Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards are trying to win both championships in the Sprint Cup and the Nationwide Series. Here is Kyle on the racetrack. And Rusty, a year ago, he came here and didn't run very well. Finished 20th in this race.
I tell you what, Jerry, he's one of the guys that really drives a real loose race car. And a couple times he has spun out off of turn 4 at this racetrack. And, I believe that the way he drives the car sometimes might not be suited for this particular track. We talked earlier about he's come off of turn 4. He's had a couple crashes at this racetrack. But all in all, he knows what he's up against too. And I think that he'll get this car running really good just like we normally see him. But this has been a track where he struggled at.
Yeah, his average finish here, folks, you're not going to believe this. Kyle Busch's average finish here in Nashville in 7 starts is 17th. Wow.
Yeah, not characteristic for a guy like that, that's for sure. I've been watching this car a little bit. It looks like he's been talking about the front end, chattering on it, some mistakes going on with the front end. But one thing I'm going to say real quickly, though, is that this track is very, very green. There's not much rubber on it. And I'm watching the lap times now, and there's a lot of lap times moving all over the place. So, hey, we got to give this track a little bit of time yet to let it get rubbered up. Get the track, get the concrete a little blacker, you'll see it change.
We talk about opportunity. Here is 18-year-old Trevor Bayne, and not until about 10 days ago did he know he was going to be in the 99 car for Michael Waltrip Incorporated Racing. Now, it's an 8-race schedule for him. He just turned 18 back in February, and everyone in the garage said this is a young man, is a phenom, a Joey Logano kind of talent that, although he's never been here, could have a good run in this car here Saturday
I think he really could, because this is a proven car. This thing always runs good when it gets to the racetrack. And for this young guy to get in this car and get an opportunity to get here, get some laps under his belt, not only just in a car, but a car this good. I mean, he's got to be feeling good about it. I've seen him many times over at DEI, and he's done a good job there.
More on the 99. Let's go down to Dave Burns.
And Doc, the worst part for Trevor Bayne today was waiting for this practice to start. I talked to him earlier in the garage, which opened at 11 a.m. local time today, and they weren't on the track until 5 p.m. local time. I caught him about midway through that, and he said, "This is horrible waiting for this practice to start. I'm like a kid in a candy shop, and they told me I can't eat any candy."
Well, it's a young man only making his second start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. The first start was in the Jimmy Means car back in Bristol early in the year. Now, talk about only having a few starts. Here's the 6th car, Eric Darnell. This would be his 4th career start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Remember the last time he was in this car at Darlington? Never been to Darlington in this car and finished 4th.
I tell you, that was very, very impressive at Darlington because that's one of the toughest racetracks to get around. And for him to run all day long, 6 inches off that wall, not hit anything, and have a finish that good, I mean, he's got to be really optimistic coming back to this racetrack, which in my mind, this track is not really tough to drive. So, and Darlington's the toughest. So he should have a good run here this week.
Shannon, what's going on with the 6th car?
Well, it's already been pretty eventful. They had a right rear flat, and this was a team. I spoke with their crew chief, Mike Kelly, this morning, told me that they were going to run the entire practice because they had that extra set of rookie tires. They pulled it in. You could just see the frustration on Mike Kelly's face, and they did have a right rear flat. So they took a new tire and put it on. But this is a guy, I mean, this is a car that finished 7th here with David Reagan back in April. And, of course, you guys were just talking about that Darlington finish. So a lot of eyes and a lot of high hope for Eric Darnell here this weekend. Yeah,
he will only run 15 races here in 2009, but he will run for Rookie of the Year. He is a 2-time winner in the NASCAR NASCAR Camping World Truck Series Rookie of the Year. You see his finish 4th at Darlington. Made his first start back in 2008 at Mexico City and finished a respectable 26th position. And if you're asking, is he related to the legendary Bay Darnell, the USAC stock car driver? Yes, Bay is his grandfather.
And I used to race with his grandfather, so I mean, there's a lot of Darnells out here, and this guy knows about racing, and I think it was a good choice to be in this car.
Here is one of the local favorites. This team is actually based in Nashville, Tennessee, the Baker Curb Racing team. Jason Keller, making his 470th career start here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, and he is tops all time in terms of top 10 finishes on concrete. He has 27 top 10 finishes in concrete tracks in this series.
Well, I'll tell you, concrete's definitely does like you, but if he wants a good run good here, it looks like he needs to work on that front end a little bit. You know, this last time by, in my mind, that front end's way too high coming down the straightaway. He's got to work on that front suspension, get this car down to the ground a little bit better, because right now it just doesn't look right.
Trying to get this car dialed in. Jason Keller showing 6th overall in the standings. Well, here's a driver you probably haven't heard of, but guess what? You're about to. He is at the top of the speed charts. Sean Case, the 23-year-old driver from Pelham, New Hampshire, driving for Richard Childress Racing. And what a story he is. We'll shed some light on his story when we come back here in just a moment to Nashville Superspeedway. Lots of motorsports coming your way. Of course, NASCAR Nationwide Series qualifying 3 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow on ESPN2. And then our NASCAR Nationwide Series at Nashville presented by Pennzoil, 7 o'clock Eastern, also on ESPN2. NHRA qualifying 10:30 Eastern time tomorrow on the Deuce. And United Association Route 66 NHRA Finals, 4 o'clock Eastern time Sunday. NASCAR Now, presented by 5 Hour Energy, 10 a.m. Eastern time Sunday on ESPN2, getting set to set up what's going to happen up in Pocono for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Back with more in just a moment.
NASCAR Nationwide Series practice, brought to you by Nationwide Insurance, official auto insurance partner of NASCAR.
Back in Nashville, Tennessee, this is the first practice of the day. There will be a later practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series, and we'll be able to update that on NASCAR Now coming up later on. Here is the last week's winner, and the young man who went to victory lane for the first time in his career here last June, Brad Keselowski. Not only did he win the race here last year, he has not finished out of the top 5 in 3 previous starts here in the 88 car for Junior Motorsports. Finished 3rd here back in April and finished 4th here back in the spring of 2008. Now we updated the 18 car, one of our points leader here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Let's update the 60 car down in the garage area with Andy Petrie.
Yeah, Doc, down here with the 18, we've been trying to keep up with them, but they're just scuffing tires, one set after another. Boring, boring. But look over here. Second in points, Carl Edwards. They're trying to find some better setups in the front end. They're changing the whole spring package in the front. They're changing the skirt. You can see them right now. They're putting that plastic piece on the front end. talked to Carl. He said that they've had a good handling race car, a car that really felt good, felt fast, but they just weren't fast. And so they're trying some different things to try to be more competitive so they can start contending for these wins and try to take that point lead back. Doc?
Yeah, and this is the car they set on the pole with back in April here and finished 5th, but that wasn't good enough because they have not gone to victory lane yet. We talked about Concrete Carl and how good Carl Edwards was on the concrete tracks. Look at the last 10 starts and the average finish. Brad Keselowski has won 3 times on concrete and has a better average finish. And when you beat Carl Edwards on the concrete, you've done something.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this guy's got a nickname, Concrete Carl. Like we said, Edwards won so many times. But Keselowski, I mean, what a great run this guy's had. He's got used to these concrete-style tracks, and the numbers showed you can't beat that. And definitely got a feel, Jerry. This concrete's a complete different feel than asphalt. And if you can get that feel, buddy, you've got something.
What is it about this concrete track? And we talk about how asphalt changes so much. Concrete doesn't adjust much with temperature or when it's from day to night.
Well, it doesn't change much. Watch a Sean Case right here and take a look at the track. It's real white colored. And as the race goes on, it'll get real black, unlike an asphalt track. And you know, the temperature stays cooler in asphalt. Track doesn't change near as much, but a lot of the drivers think that, you know, in their mind, the track is just slipperier. They think they can crash easier. And there's some drivers who just flat hate the concrete. In fact, they're spooked when they get on the track. If something's wrong with the car, they blame it on the concrete.
We mentioned that Sean Case here in the 2-car is atop the speed charts here, driving for Richard Childress Racing with a championship crew chief, Dan Deeringhoff, there wrenching the car. Shannon.
Hey, Doc, this doesn't surprise me at all. Their PR guy came up to me in the media center this morning and said, keep your eye on this kid. And they gave me a number, and that number was 6.7. That is his average starting position in all of his starts, whether that be ARCA or nationwide, 6.7. Now, he is, of course, in this 2-car for the first time working with Dan Deeringhoff. Right now, the car is a little bit tight, but he has been in 2nd and 1st on the speed chart since he's gone out onto the racetrack when this practice session started. And they are in race trim, according to Dan Deeringhoff.
Wow, that is impressive. This young man, by the way, ran an ARCA race here back in August of last year, set on the outside pole, and led 97 of the 117 laps.
Place, I'm surprised how much further I feel like I'm driving in with less speed than the ARCA car. So I'm able to get into the corner and roll out as I'm getting in the corner real slow. And it's keeping it a real tight transition, and it's pretty good, or comfortable, excuse me.
That's exactly what crew chiefs want to hear from young drivers. They want to hear the feedback. Very, very important to get accurate feedback to be able to help get the car dialed in. Not that they need any help, because right now they have turned laps at over 159 miles per hour. More on the 2-car. Andy?
Yeah, Doc, I was over there talking to Carl Edwards about his car and his setup, and he's looking at the scoring monitor, and he said, wow, that Sean Case is pretty fast up there on the board. I said, I wouldn't know what he looked like if he walked in here, but he's fast.
How about that? We talked about how this track has been so good to newcomers over the years, and there are 9 drivers in the garage area making their 1st or 2nd start of the season, including this guy, Sean Case, who would be making his 2nd ever start in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Now, a moment ago aboard the 38 car down in the garage area, they were taking some important measurements there. They're looking at some tire sheets. Scott Zipadelli there talking to a driver and doing some what we call indexing. To explain what they're doing, why don't we come back in our Craftsman Tech garage and our championship crew chief Tim Brewer and our champion driver Rusty Wallace.
Guys, I tell you what he was doing was clocking his steering wheel right in this area right here. There's splines on this steering wheel where the wheel actually slides on. And as a driver, you want to get that wheel really clocked good. If that wheel's sitting all crooked, man, it drives you crazy. Another thing, if you come down pit road on a regular pit stop and that wheel isn't straight, that means that tire isn't straight and it's hard to make a pit stop. Let me show you what they do. The drivers will actually get the car just straight as they want, get the wheel where they want it. I call it a position of 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. We don't want it like this. We don't want it like that. We want that baby dead level. And what they'll do is get down here and take a paint pen and actually draw a mark right here. They'll get this mark on the wheel. They'll also come right down here on the splines of the steering shaft, put another mark. So when the race starts, they'll take them, they'll look over the wheel, line them up, match it, pull that thing back, and the baby slides right on there. That means that the steering wheel is clocked. And you know, a driver might do that a couple times too. If you make a front end change in practice, he'll have to do it again. But 9 times out of 10, it stays there. And mentally, it really helps that driver.
Very important for the orientation of a driver. Remember, we saw a few years ago a driver actually took his steering wheel loose during a caution lap and was involved in an accident because he suddenly had no control of the car. Here's the 32 car. That is Bernie Lamar, who actually lives here in Nashville. And you know Bernie, to his story. He is not only an impressive driver who finished second at Daytona driving for Kevin Harvick a few years ago. During an autograph session his first year, he was put in an autograph booth with supermodel Nikki Taylor. What a bad deal, huh? By the way, they ended up getting married and now have a young girl, a young child, and over the last few days they've been able to spend some time together here in downtown Nashville. But
Jerry, I've been very impressed with this guy. I mean, he wasn't in the circuit for a while, and the last, oh my gosh, out of 10 races here, this guy's been so strong. I watched him week after week when he was in this car. Now, he's not in it full time. He's in and out. Let's see, right now he's 16th quick. But as this practice session has been going on and the race has been going on previously, solid runs. The car looks strong throughout. And I think the original Bernie Lamar we saw when Kevin Harvick brought him into this series is doing a really good job. This guy's really matured. I've been really impressed how he's been driving.
Yeah, he's been in this car 5 times this year, sharing it with Brian Vickers over the 12 races they have run thus far for Braun Racing. Well, we talked about the fact that he lives locally. Well, a couple of nights ago, Dollar General had a special autograph session. Lots of drivers on hand, including the points contenders, Jason Leffler and others. There's Jason Keller, and of course, Bernie Lamar there with his supermodel wife, Nikki Taylor, sitting at the far end.
Back with you with the Nashville Superspeedway opening practice for the NASCAR Nationwide Series, and it was to be a time where Mike Bliss was learning a lot about his race car on the track, but Mike was looking over a piece of equipment in the garage just moments ago. Appears to be a transmission piece of some sort. Mike, with you live now, what is going on with your race car, and what happened when you tried to start practice?
The clutch wasn't working. It was just pure stupidity. The guys at the shop I'm pissed. I'm really mad right now. We're wasting time right now, and it just wasn't They tried to put a small peg and a big peg and a small peg, and it wouldn't work, so they pulled it up with the bolts and broke the bell housing while they did it. That's stupid, and I'm really mad about the whole situation. I want to say more than mad, but can't say it.
And Mike, I want to confirm it was the clutch. Has nothing to do with the transmission itself.
Well, the input shaft on the transmission was the outer housing on the input shaft. There's a ring around it that fits on the bell housing. It was bigger than the bell housing. Well, instead of thinking about what's going on, they just tried to pull it in with the bolts and broke the bell housing doing it. Now we sit here losing practice because somebody was in a hurry.
Very frustrated for our winner of 2 weeks ago. Let's go to the Craftsman Tech Garage. Tim Brewer, you can add some more on what this is all about.
Thanks, Dave. It's very frustrating anytime you lose time on a racetrack, but what's going to be more devastating when you change that transmission, you got to start in the rear. It doesn't matter where you qualify. But where the problem was, like Bliss said, they actually put the transmission up. And when you put the transmission in, you've got a clutch right inside the bell housing. We've also got a cylinder that releases a clutch. And that transmission, it has to fit up in the bell housing without pulling it up with the bolts. We basically put it up, check the clearance, which is about 50 to 60 thousandths. That gives the driver just a little bit of free play in the clutch pedal. But the transmission, it needs to be installed and slid in. You can't draw it up with these bolts, because if you do, you're going to either break the fingers in the clutch or you're going to break the input shaft off on the transmission. But it's not going to be a good day for Mike Bliss.
They will miss this entire practice, Tim, and the good news for them is there is another practice later on this evening here that they should be able to make barely. So they get a big break in Charlotte when the rain's coming to declare the winner. They get a bad break here, literally a bad break with the input shaft in Nashville, Tennessee. And Rusty, here's the only good news. They started at the back of the pack in Charlotte, 40th place, and they won the race. So they're going to be at the back of the pack when we wave the green here tomorrow.
Well, I mean, just because he did it one time doesn't mean he could do it again. And I'll tell you, anytime you take a driver and have something this stupid fail on you, I mean, I understand his frustration. I mean, my gosh, he's a competitor, Jerry. He wants to get in here. He wants to practice like the rest of these guys are. Now he's got this problem. He can't get back out there, and he's going to have to start tailback.
Here's the 62 car, Brendan Gaughan. We told you he is right now tied atop the bestest Rookie of the Year point standings. Coming off that career best second place finish a couple of weeks ago at Charlotte. Would like to be able to get a top 10 here. And welcome back Stephen Light. He's in the 29 car.
Let's start rolling.
Yeah, it looks like he's got sticker tires on this thing right now. You can see from the front end, he's got this car taped off and getting ready to do a qualifying attempt. Probably wants to get a qualifying attempt under his belt and see how this car is going to handle. And after that's done, he'll probably go back to race setups and work on it. But, Jerry, we haven't seen Steven for a long time. And I'll tell you, this has got to be tough on a guy to be out for a while, they throw him back in, and expect him to still have his rhythm.
He's only had one start this year, Rusty. That was here back in April when he finished 11th. He shares the car with Jeff Burton and Clint Boyer. Burton has driven this 29 car 7 times with a best of 6th at California. Boyer's driven it 4 times and had 3 third-place finishes, including one at Dover last week.
A lot of pressure on him, you know. He might say there's no pressure, but there's got to be some self-induced pressure because of how well Burton always runs in this car. But, you know, it's got to be a relief, too, to be able to even be in this car. And we know this guy can win after that great win we see in Kentucky out of him at one time. So he's got his head on right. See how this qualifying run turns out.
Yeah, here's the best news for him, though. He will be in this car the next 3 weeks in a row: Nashville, Kentucky, and Milwaukee. And by the way, he is now atop the speed chart.
Oh, yeah, that was a great lap. That was a 30.14. Stephen Light, #1 right now. But I will say, he's the only guy I've seen do a qualifying run right now. And I expect these speeds to start falling, but he's laid the gauntlet down right now. Said, okay, cats, chase this number. This is what I can do to see what you can do.
Well, could Stephen Light get his 2nd career win? He was a Cinderella story back in 2007 in Kentucky. We invite you to join us for live flag-to-flag coverage from Nashville Superspeedway, Saturday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2. Our coverage beginning with the NASCAR Countdown. Alan Besswick and Brad Doherty and all the crew here and in the green flag for 300 miles on the 1.33-mile concrete track. Well, remember, there's a bit of competition in this car number 29. 3 different drivers driving it, and the competition is as to who has the best average finish between the start of the year and the July race at Daytona. They get their name on the top of the car for the rest of the year.
Well, what?
Clint got his feelings hurt because at our photo shoot, my name was on the roof of the car.
I was like, why does he get his name on the door?
I've been driving a Holiday Inn car for a couple years and won, you know, quite a few races in it. I don't know what he thought was going to happen. He's the reigning champion, so he, you know, thought he needed a little respect. So we made a wager. I might need to get this in writing, but at some point in the year, whoever has won the most races gets to put their name on the car.
Luckily for me, my first 4 races are like 3 of my best tracks.
You know, just a little more incentive for us to go out and win.
To be able to say that, oh look, Jeff Burton, or hey look, Boyer's driving the car with my name on it. I know it would eat at Clint, because Clint was already talking about, man, I really hope I don't have to drive this car without my name on it.
I just really want to see Jeff Burton climb in my car with my name on it. I think it'd be great.
It's my car. They're just borrowing it every now and then. It's my car.
Nashville, Tennessee, Music City, USA. For years, legends have come here and appeared on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry. Some of the all-time greats of country music picking and grinning here for all the folks to enjoy. And also here, a couple times a year, the legends come to the Nashville Superspeedway and perform on the concrete. Let's see how they're performing right now after the first practice session is ongoing. Stephen Light making only his 2nd start of the year atop the charts in the Richard Childress Racing Chevy. And the other RCR car, Sean Case, his 2nd overall. There's Carl Edwards. And look, Cale Gale making his 1st and only start of the year, driving for Kevin Harvick back in 6th spot.
You take a look at both the Richard Childress Racing cars, a number 29 and a number 2, equal times out there a little while ago, a 30.14. Look how close those miles per hour are. I mean, right there. But I will tell you, Stephen Light was the first guy to do a full qualifying run. Now, Jason Leffler, you see right here, is going out to the racetrack. He's got brand new tires on, got that front end taped off. He's making a qualifying run right now.
We'll keep an eye on what happens with Leffler as he comes by. And there is Jason Leffler, who got his very first win here back in 2004. All the way at the top of the charts, Rusty. You were right on.
Well, 30.02, that's pretty quick. And I've been watching these lap times. The track is pretty well stabilized right now. Nobody's really gaining in speed. And now these guys are getting ready to do block-off runs. This is the time to get it done. We've got just about 10 minutes left to go in his first practice session. And those guys want to see what they got.
Well, one of the drivers who was in the top 10 and is in the top 10 in speeds, Kelly Byers, 7th overall right now, standing by with Shannon.
Doc, you just mentioned the 33 car. 7 different drivers scheduled to be in that car this season. Next up, next week, Kelly Byers. But this week he's in the 91. Tell me how this deal came about.
Well, it just came about a week ago. Phil Parsons called me up, and their driver normally for MSRP Motorsports, Terry Cooks, got a conflict with the truck race being in Texas tonight, so thought I'd help him out here and just have a little fun, get back in the car.
How much does this help you prepare for next week when you get into that 33 car in Kentucky?
Well, any seat time's good, you know, at any level, any short track, whatever car it is, you know, you can't beat seat time, and so it's just knocking the rust off a little bit and get geared up, ready to go next weekend.
Kelly Byers making a start in Kentucky next week. The last time he was in the car was here. He finished 4th. Andy?
Yeah, Shannon, I'm with the driver of the 33 car this week, Cale Gale. They're in here making a few changes on the car. Cale, how is it?
The car feels pretty good. We're just working on it to get it turned a little bit better in the middle. Ernie and the guys are working on it. Glad to be back in the seat. First time back in the seat since Memphis at the end of last year. And Ream Chevrolet's running pretty good. Hopefully we'll have a good solid run tomorrow afternoon.
How hard is it when you get out of the car after working on the truck team and working on the car? You get out of the car. How hard is it to watch these guys make these changes and not get in there and get your hands dirty?
Well, I kind of like driving, but I like working on them too. So Ernie and all the guys, Kevin and Kelly and Ryan Newman and Tony's been running good in this car all year, and I've been a part of KHI now for about 3 years, and it's been pretty cool to watch it, you know, come up, and we're having a lot of fun. Hopefully we can get a good finish tomorrow here in Nashville.
Okay, Doc, Cale Gale having a lot of fun down here.
He will run this race and go off and run the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series the rest of the season. Take a look at the musical chairs for Kevin and Delana Harvick here for the month of June. Cale Gale here, as Shannon mentioned, Kelly Byers at Kentucky, Ron Hornaday Jr. on the flat 1 mile of Milwaukee, and then Kevin Harvick, the co-owner, back in at New Hampshire.
I tell you, it seems to be working, although I do question that. It seems like when you put a lot of drivers in a car, you can't build consistency, and that's one thing I don't like to do, keep swapping everything around a lot. But if they put some high talented drivers in that car like they did last year, Stewart, guys like that, they can get the numbers.
Well, they've had Tony Stewart and Ryan Newman in the car, and both of them have finished 2nd in that car. Of course, now Kevin has already won in his own car at Bristol, Tennessee, as well as finished 2nd. So they're trying to go for an owner's championship here as well. And here's the 88 car pulling back on the pit road, and Rusty, word is he might have had a bit of a bobble and a scare a moment ago on the racetrack.
Well, this concrete racetrack, like we talked earlier, not enough rubber on it quite yet. A lot of things can happen. Let's see what happened here. He gets down in the corner. Car looks pretty straight right through there. No problems whatsoever. Oh, big loose right there. Holds on to it. And, you know, everybody's running on the bottom of the track right now, and if he gets up a little high out of the groove, that can happen. That right rear tire can get up into marbles, skate a little bit, and that looks like what happened right there.
But as you said at the top of the show, the reason these guys do so well here, this track is wide enough you can catch it if it starts to get away from you.
Yeah, he wasn't right up against a wall right there. I mean, he had a lot of room to slide and catch the car.
Here's another one of the talented rookies, Scott Lagasse Jr., and he was the rookie of the race back in April with the top 10 finish on the racetrack. And let's see how he's doing right now, trying to get the car up to speed.
Tell you what, you talk about a comeback kid. I mean, Lagasse in this car has been fast almost every race I've seen. They switched to Toyota. They got some help from Gibbs. And this team has really been shining. I've been looking at the way it gets to the corner, where the nose is riding on the racetrack from week to week, and they've built some consistency in this car. Pretty proud of the way he's driving this thing.
He's done a good job on the racetrack and has done a pretty good job promoting the series off the racetrack. In fact, a couple of days ago, he and co-rookie Brendan Gaughan did a little visit to the Country Music Studios downtown.
Shaq, baby, love Shaq. Yeah, we just turned left. The whole singing, music playing, that's...
I'm like looking at this and thinking about my dashboard. Like my team puts like 5 switches and that's it.
We're not smart enough for a whole lot of switches. I have one that says ignition.
Ladies, I need complete silence in here.
And they said yes, sir, and they shut the door.
Listen here, you're interrupting my work. I'm trying to produce a record here, and
we're busy. Make it.
We know nothing about what we're doing, but
we're good at it.
Yes,
we're really good at it.
We'll get it figured out. So, Megan, we need you to run this one more time. That's take. Good job, Megan. That is perfect.
Final minutes of practice here in Nashville, Tennessee for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. This is actually the first of 2 practice sessions, and it has been a scramble for the 1 car of Mike Bliss, who just got on the racetrack. He'll have roughly about 5.5 minutes of total practice because of a broken input shaft and a crack on the bell housing that caused the team to have to do a lot of work and miss all this valuable
And that
time.
was a lot of pieces and parts they had to change, Jerry, in a quick time. Just like you said, he's lost a lot of practice time. Right now, he's driving his guts out. And what they want to do right now, since they're running out of time, and the only time they can really get back on the track is the second session, is get some good feedback so now they can go back to the truck and think about what they need to do to this car for the last practice session. But obviously, he's mad, he's frustrated, and right now he just needs to keep from crashing the car because he's hot.
Now remember, they will race tomorrow night after dark, 7 o'clock Eastern time the race starts, but they will qualify in the heat of the day. That's why they wanted to see what this car would do right now in terms of qualifying setup.
Well, the one thing he gets to do is qualify for a pit selection. But since he's changed the transmission, he's going to start tailback no matter what. So that's going to happen. So he wants to run fast, see if he can get it qualified, but above all, get a good race setup right now.
So officially, just now, it is 5 minutes remaining in this final practice. Jason Leffler atop the speed charts. And here's the 16 car. We talked about so many young drivers. Ricky Stenhouse, another one of the Roush Fenway drivers who made his debut here back in April. Qualified 5th, ran in the top 10 almost all night long and had problems in the very last few laps and got a disappointing 5th.
Yeah, he just got caught up in a bad deal at the racetrack here last time. But, you know, we were all very, very impressed. He ran solid throughout the day, and I'm thinking, man, Stenhouse, I haven't heard of him much. But, boy, he drove like a veteran last time, and he just was about to bring that baby home and got in a crash, and his day was over.
More on the 16 car. Shannon.
Car is good, according to Ricky Stenhouse. It's good getting in. It really rolls the center. I spoke with Ricky this morning, and he told me when they were here before, he was really concerned because it took him a while to get up to speed. It took him a while to get comfortable in the car. He was really hoping when he climbed behind the wheel of that 16 car this weekend that it would take him a little bit quicker, not as long, and it really has. He's gotten up to speed very quickly. And after the 16th last weekend in Dover, which was very, very tough, these guys really need a good run.
They do, Shannon, and again, it's a theme of the weekend here. Proven race cars and fresh young faces getting in for the weekend. Here are some of the names. You see Stenhouse in the 16, Eric Darnell getting in for David Reagan, Brad Coleman in the car Joey Logano won with back in April, Stephen Light back in the 29 car that Boyer and Burton have been sharing, and Cale Gale, his only shot driving for Kevin and Dana Harvick. Remember the great run he had at Bristol last year with a top 5 finish.
Well, there's just no doubt about that. Whoever gets in this car always gets a good ride. And one thing you must remember, these cars are sister cars to Carl Edwards' car. They all come out of the same shop. And every time I look at the bodies, the fenders, the performance, I mean, they're very, very close. You can tell that that Jack Roush-led team definitely has consistency. And they can talk to each other. Whenever you can talk to a guy like Edwards,
what do you think's going through Cale Gale's mind? I mean, I know he has to smile outside. He realizes I've only got one shot in this car, and I'm going to go off and get some track time in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series for the rest of the year. But how special would it be for him if he could pull off the upset win here tomorrow night?
For him, it would be everything in the world, and he knows we keep telling everybody in the world that this is an opportunity race, man. I mean, there's been a lot of first-time winners here, and Cale could be one of them. This car that Harvick's prepared for him is a real hot rod, I call it. I mean, it's handling well, and I talked to the crew chief earlier, and he said, hey, this is the same car we ran 4th with last time, and we think it's better now.
Cale was the rookie of the race here last year, finishing 8th. And if you just joined our coverage, this is the same young man who drove the 33 car at Bristol last August, set on the pole with all the Nationwide and NASCAR Sprint Cup guys still running in the race, and finished 4th overall behind Brad Keselowski, Clint Boyer, and Greg Biffle. This racetrack, as we told you, about 20 minutes outside of Nashville, Tennessee, and about 10 minutes from Mount Juliet, Tennessee, which happens to be the home of Bobby Hamilton Jr. Now, Bobby Hamilton Jr. has been more of a car owner this year with Renzi Hamilton, but last week stepped back in this 81 car to drive it at Dover and did a heck of a job with the top 15 finish.
He did a great job up there. I watched him. I wasn't working that week. I was back at home watching on TV, watching you guys. You guys did a great job, by the way. And I tell you, this guy looks strong. It looked like he's never been out of the car, and he took a car that really doesn't have much resources. As you can see, there's no sponsors on this car, and did quite a good job with it. This is his home track. Got a little extra step in him right now.
Michael McDowell going back on the racetrack in the 47 car. And they've got the ConstructionJobs.com sponsorship coming on board this car for last week and this week and next week, at Kentucky. So Michael, who led laps here back in April and thought he had a good shot at maybe a top 5 finish.
Yeah, this car's been solid also every single week. This Brad Doherty car with Michael Waltrip Racing, it's been real consistent. McDowell's been doing a pretty decent job driving this thing. This is one of the prettiest cars in the garage area. When I walked through the garage today, I looked at the fit and finish on this car, and I'll tell you what, this thing was showroom quality. You can tell they're really working hard on this car, trying to give this kid a good car.
Dave, you got more?
Doc, I talked to Michael in between runs as he was sitting in this 47 car, and he said they woke it up with the change to the carburetor. The motor was running kind of flat. They changed the jets on it, and it really ran a whole lot better. And he says handling-wise, it's even better than it was. You mentioned that top 5 finish. He said it's even better than it was in the April race.
Dave, that's a good point, Rusty. I guess when you can get a little more oomph and torque off the corner, you can actually change the handling of the race car.
Oh, you can. You can get it handling better. Right now, it's handling pretty good because he just shot up to number 4. He's on a qualifying run right now. You can see the front end of that car is taped off. He's got one more lap to go. Let's see if he can pick it up a little bit more. But right now, that was a big move all the way up to the 4th position.
Well, the red and black flag waving there atop the flag stand, and that indicates that the first practice session of the day for the NASCAR Nationwide cars is complete. And by the way, McDowell all the way up to 2nd right now on the speed charts. Kyle Busch, who thought he was going to spend much of the day in Pocono because of the rains up there. They washed out the activities for the NASCAR Sprint Cup cars. Both he and Carl Edwards able to make it down here for not only the first practice, but the second practice. Now, the question is, with the schedule changing tomorrow in Pocono, will they get back for qualifying?
Well, from what I hear, Carl Edwards is going to work really hard to get back and try to get this car qualified because if he can drive it in qualifying, he'll have a lot better starting position. But, we're not hearing that Kyle Busch is that excited about getting in a big hurry. He wants to spend a lot of the time back up in Pocono getting his Cup car up to speed and getting it performing the way it needs to.
Yeah, Kyle really struggled at Pocono in both races a year ago, finishing 43rd last in this race at Pocono in the Sprint Cup car. He's the points leader for the NASCAR Nationwide Series, but he is not in the top 10 here in this first practice session, but this guy, Carl Edwards, is. Edwards right now being shown 8th overall in the speed charts, but Jason Leffler is the quickest right now in his Toyota. Then the rookie McDowell, Stephen Light, Case, and Lagasse, another rookie, in the top 5. And that's where all our quality tools are located, inside the Craftsman Tech Garage, just behind pit road here at Nashville Superspeedway. Practice number 1 is over, and they're going to be setting up for qualifying now in this second practice to see if they can get the cars dialed in for qualifying, which we will cover tomorrow at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Let's show you what's involved in the setup as we come inside with Tim Brewer and Rusty Wallace.
Thanks, guys. The first thing we're going to be doing in the morning, we're going to be cooling the engine down. How we're going to do that? We're going to do it with a cool down unit. Let me show you what a flapper valve actually looks like from the inside. We're going to heat the oil, heat the engine, but then we're going to cool it off. That enables us to come in and put tape on the grill. But when we put the cool down unit on, what we're literally doing is running water through the radiator, and this is a flapper valve. As it goes in right here, it closes the valve, forcing the water through the radiator, back up through the engine, and out for the discharge. But that's going to enable us, like I said, for some speed to put on the nose of the car. Another thing we're going to do, because this is an impound race, and what you practice and qualify with, that's what you start the race with. Another thing we have to do, we want hot oil going to the engine so it gets maximum performance right off the bat. So we're going to shut the ball valve on the oil bypass filter. So we're going to bypass the cooler, put the hot oil directly to the engine. That's going to give us just a little bit more horsepower to get a good qualifying speed. Rusty?
Tell you what, Tim, there's some more things left too. You just said tape off the front end, cool it down. That does a lot, but NASCAR also lets you tighten these cars up. When Tim puts that tape on the front of that car, it really pins that front end, makes the back of that car really loose, slip around a lot. So what I'm going to do to offset it, and NASCAR lets me do it, I'm going to put some wedge in the car. One round up on the left front, one round down on the right front. Then I'm going to go to the back of the car. NASCAR is going to let me take this left rear jack boat, screw it down 1.5, one round, teams can do what they want there. Then they'll go to the right rear, do the same thing. It'll come up. Okay, now we've got wedge in the car. We've got the front end taped up. What else can we do? We can go to the track bar on the right-hand side of the car. We can bring it down. That's going to tighten the car up also. One more thing left, Tim. Air pressure, man. We're going to go to these 4 tires. We're probably going to air them all up a little bit, but a lot of the teams are going to put more air in the left rear so that car will stay tighter on entry and exit. They're also going to put a lot of air in that right front tire. That's going to help keep some wedge into it. But above all, get more air all the way around so it wakes it up, makes this car run fast, and makes it pretty happy. And hopefully the driver's going to be happy if he gets that baby tight. But you know what? A lot of the times they're not tight enough. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Looks like Carl Edwards is happy. Big smile on Carl. And a lot of adjustments, guys, for these cars to get them dialed in for qualifying here, which they'll be working on here in this next practice session in the evening. Of course, we'll have live qualifying at 3 o'clock tomorrow. Let's go down to the garage where Shannon is caught up with last week's winner.
Another driver who's pretty happy down here, Brad Keselowski, 6th on the speed chart right now. We saw you get a little bit loose on your last run. How was the car?
A little bit loose, especially up off of turn 4. This track's really tricky because it doesn't have a lot of mechanical grip up off of turn 4. I think we saw that last year when Kyle Busch spun out here, and he's one of the best there is at driving a loose race car. So it's a tricky little track, and you have to keep your car turning, but you can't be too loose that you're going to spin out.
Well, Brad Keselowski said Carl Edwards was the best of this racetrack. I think he's getting pretty good here as well. Dave?
Well, Shannon, Bobby Hamilton Jr.'s fast time really doesn't show how good that they are. They kind of messed up on that mock qualifying run. But, Bobby, how is it going with the 81 car? Second week in it, and it seems like you're picking up speed.
Yeah, it's great. We unloaded. We was the quickest, and we fell down around 4th or 5th, and I screwed up on the qualifying run. I was trying to get up to speed off pit road and just got sideways and either spin out in front of Carl Edwards or just hit the grass. I hit the grass, tore the valence up. And we just came in. The car, I can't believe it. I mean, it drives itself. Ernie Elliott sent us a motor that was their top stuff, and I could, it's just the biggest thing I can tell the difference. We were left over. My guys have got a ton of confidence. I walked in the garage knowing that we're going to be fast here, and it's showing. I mean, we're all cutting up and everything, having a good time. We helped them with points last week, moved up in points. Just trying to get to there where we can, finish the rest of the year out with these guys. This stuff's fun. I mean, it's cool to come over and make a big difference. It's cool to be a part of the situation where your name could probably help get some sponsor on the quarter panels and stuff. Little odds and ends like that, you can help build. And I like running against my own car over there. So, I mean, I can go over and rub it in those guys' face. So, it's just, I'm glad to be back in the Nationwide Series. This is what I was sitting at home thinking, this is probably good to take some time off. Seeing you guys on TV, and it was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. So, made some phone calls. Here we are in this 81 car and having a blast, running good and having fun.
Those are two things that really make it in racing, Doc, having fun and going fast.
Got to be one of the local favorites from nearby Mount Juliet. 5-time winner in the series. Good to have Bobby Hamilton Jr. back. We'll see how he will do in qualifying. Our coverage begins at 3 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. Then a race live flag-to-flag coverage, 7 o'clock Eastern time. NHRA qualifying 10:30 Eastern and final Sunday at 4 Eastern time. And, of course, NASCAR Now, the pre-race edition, presented by 5 Hour Energy, Sunday 10 a.m. Eastern time on ESPN2. We'll be back to wrap it up here at Nashville Superspeedway in just a moment.
Welcome back to Nashville Superspeedway, where we're between practice sessions for the Nationwide Series. I'm standing here with Jeremy Clement with the 18 car, who was scheduled to practice this car and get it all set up for Kyle Busch, but Kyle showed up. And how disappointed are you, Jeremy?
Man, I tell you, it was pretty disappointing to hear he was coming back. That's the way it goes. Can't control the weather, but it's good for the team that he's back, but it wasn't good for me. And was looking forward to getting in that thing. It's a rocket ship, best car out there. So, but I'm supposed to do it maybe a couple more times, and I'm going to be in the 20 next week, so I'll have more opportunities.
Okay, Doc. Jeremy's got his head up down here looking for a ride maybe in the future.
Talented young driver hoping to get a chance, and the fact that they even put you in the 18 car says a lot about how much they feel about your ability. Now, we talk about this being an opportunity weekend here in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. 7 drivers have gotten their first win at this racetrack over the years, and Rusty, looking at those speeds in the first practice session, 6 of the top 10 have never won a nationwide race.
Well, they look pretty good to me. I mean, I watched practice sessions after Sean Case right off the bat, shot right to the top of the field. But talk about Jason Leffler. He got his first win here. He's P1 right right now. There's been some disappointments also. What about Mike Bliss? Right off the bat, transmission problems. So it's pretty crazy practice session out there. It's been good for some, bad for others.
They got about 30 minutes between this session and the next session, which will be their final practice. And, of course, the next time we see them on the racetrack will be for qualifying at 3 o'clock on Saturday. Now, what would you do? What would you change between Session 1 and Session 2?
Well, right now, they've only got 30 minutes between the second session. What they've got to do now is go back in the truck, sit down, go through the notes, get the cars on the scales, check the weights. There's a lot of checkup they needed to do to the car. Make sure it hasn't got off kilter. Make sure it's where it has when I got to the track. But right now, it's all about discussions. What springs do we want? What shocks do we want? What did we learn? Because, guys, we got one shot left. We got to get it right this time.
There are 9 drivers in this field who are making their first or second ever NASCAR Nationwide Series start. 8 rookie drivers. This track has produced 7 first-time winners. There are 6 drivers who have never run a nationwide race here. And, folks, only 2 drivers are running double duty coming from Pocono in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Qualifying coming your way 3 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN2 tomorrow. And, of course, live flag-to-flag coverage at 7 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow on ESPN2. Coming up next, it's NASCAR Now. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. So long, everybody, from Nashville, Tennessee.